Honorable President. Honorable members, may we be seated to allow the President to address the nation. Honorable President.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Togoti Diza, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Refile Mtsweni-Tsipane, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. Amos Masondo, former Chairperson of the NCOP, Dr. Naledi Pandor, Mayor of Cape Town, Alderman Jordan Hill-Lewis, he was nervous. He thought I wouldn't be able to pronounce his first name because it's wrongly spelled. Deputy Chief Justice Dunstan Mlambo, Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Khosi Thabo Siyakhlulo, Isithwalandwe, Mayor Sophie de Bruyn, President of Contralesa, Khoshi Mothupa Mokoena, members of Parliament, premiers of our provinces, fellow South Africans. 70 years ago, thousands of women of all races marched to the Union buildings, their hearts beating with a common purpose. Armed with extraordinary cunning and resolve, these women braved police checkpoints and harassment. In a voice loud and clear, they said, "We shall not rest until we have won for our children their fundamental rights of freedom, justice, and security." We recall the powerful image of Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Sophie de Bruyn, and Rahima Musa, carrying armfuls of petitions to lay at the doorstep of a prime minister who did not dare to meet them. Every petition they handed over carried the weight of justice. Each of the 100,000 signatures they had collected expressed a desire for freedom and equality. For 30 minutes, the 20,000 women stood on the steps of the amphitheater of the Union buildings in silence, not singing, not moving, not speaking. The powerful imagery of these women standing in silence illustrated their resolve and their commitment to bring change about. Their silence reflected the deep emotional pain and frustration born out of systemic apartheid oppression. Their silence showcased the sorrow and the anger that these women felt in their fight for justice and equality. Their silence was long enough to be unsettling to the apartheid officials who were watching them. In that quiet moment, they showed the world that it is not the shouts of anger, but the stillness of determination that moves mountains. After the silence came the singing of the now eternally famous chant that has gone down in our struggle history, symbolizing the powerful role played by women in the struggle against apartheid. They chanted, "Watinta bafazi, watinta imbokodo." Translated, it means you strike a woman, you strike a rock. It is said that the women's chant rolled down the terraces of the Union buildings, turning the seat of state power into a stage of protest, where courage meets authority. This evening, we are honored to have amongst us Mam Sophie de Bruyn, one of the leaders that marched and a stalwart of our struggle for freedom. She and many other women who have made enormous sacrifices in our struggle for freedom remind us that women have always been at the forefront of change, ready to stand up, to be counted, to speak out, and never back down in the fight for justice. To mark this anniversary, I'd like to ask you to rise and give a standing ovation to the women of South Africa who marched on the Union buildings in 1956.
We may be seated.
Mam Sophie de Bruyn, I can see where you are seated. Please stand up so that we can see you. It was 50 years ago, in that same spirit of defiance and struggle, that young people in Soweto walked out of school and marched towards Orlando Stadium to oppose the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction and the hated system of Bantu education. Their courage in the face of a brutally oppressive regime reverberated around the world and brought renewed attention to our struggle. The determination and sacrifices of the youth of 1976 and the generations of young people that would follow continue to inspire us. We thank the young people of 1976. "30 years ago, in 1996, in this very precinct, in the Houses of Parliament, the Constitutional Assembly adopted the text on which our democratic nation is founded. Our Constitution reflects the spirit of those women who marched in 1956, and the young people of 1976, and the many South Africans from all walks of life who fought for our freedom. It is a constitution that reflects the aspirations of the people of South Africa for a nation that is united and at peace, a nation that has thrown off the shackles of oppression and a divided past. It is a constitution that calls on us not only to redress the injustices of the past, but to progressively realize the right of all South Africans to housing, to health, to food, to water, to social security, to education, and to a better and prosperous life for all. Today, we must realize these aspirations in a world that is rapidly changing, a world in which narrow self-interest has replaced the common good, a world in which trade is used as an instrument of cohesion, a world in which might is right and the powerful impose themselves on the weak. To navigate this new world, we must draw on our strength as a nation. Our strength comes from our values, as articulated in our Constitution. The values of dignity, of equality, of non-racialism, non-sexism, diversity, and of the inherent worth of every person. It comes from our people. Our strength comes from our people, from our tolerance, from our generosity, kindness, and solidarity. It comes from our steadfast commitment to upholding the rights and affirming the dignity of people in our society who face prejudice and discrimination, including persons with disabilities and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. Our strength comes from our determination and resolve. It comes from our creativity and inspiration. As we navigate this new world, we must rely on that strength, the strength that comes from our natural endowments, from the minerals in our earth and the richness of our soil, from the beauty of our mountains and shores. Our strength comes from our institutions, which are robust, independent, and from the spirit of democracy and freedom that lives deep within all of us. Our strength and power comes from one another. It comes from what we can achieve when we work together. Our strength also comes from our respect for one another, even as we may differ on various issues. Our strength also comes from our sporting men and women who continue to lift the South African flag on the world stage and bring glory to our nation. Now, as we reflect on the state of our nation, we can say that we are stronger today than we were a year ago. Our economy is growing again, and this growth is gathering pace. While we have experienced 4 consecutive quarters of GDP growth, we know that it has to grow much higher and much faster to meet our social and economic challenges. We have achieved 2 consecutive primary budget surpluses. Our credit rating has improved. Interest rates are coming down, and inflation is at its lowest level in 20 years. We are on a clear path of stabilizing our national debt. The rand has strengthened against the dollar. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest stock exchange on the African continent, has performed exceptionally well over the past year. This growth reflects broader economic recovery, investor confidence, and increasing interest in South Africa's economy and equities. Our borrowing costs have been declining. Through Operation Vulindlela, we've made significant progress in accelerating economic reform and opening the way for investment competition. We have brought an end to load shedding, and built a more dynamic and resilient energy system. We have made progress in improving the performance of our ports and freight rail lines, steadily increasing the volume of goods that we move in and out of our country. We have restored our passenger rail system. More and more commuters are now able to travel to work on newly locally made trains, significantly reducing their traveling costs. We are investing across our country in roads, in bridges, in rail lines, in ports, in dams, and in solar farms. We have created over 2.5 million opportunities through the presidential employment stimulus, mainly for young people and women. The expanded Works program and community work program continue to offer job opportunities to many throughout the country. Last year, we saw the highest matric pass rate in our history, with more than two-thirds of all bachelor passes coming from schools in the most disadvantaged communities. Now, as the economy continues to grow, the rate of unemployment must come down. By expanding our social protection system through the SRD grant, we have reduced the number of people living in food poverty. We are strengthening our anti-corruption laws. Our country has been removed from the grey list of Financial Action Task Team. We continue to make the progress that was difficult to make in previous years. The work we have done to rebuild key institutions from state capture is showing results. The South African Revenue Service is once again a world-class tax authority. The investigating directorate continues with its work and is making progress in the prosecution of those who need to be prosecuted. Most importantly, our democratic system is maturing. Our democratic system is maturing and growing stronger. The government of national unity, you will love this, has shown that it is possible for South Africans to come together from across the political spectrum to work on a common agenda for growth and progress. Last year, we hosted the leaders of the world for a successful G20 summit, which showcased our country's strength on the global stage. Confidence is rising amongst investors, business people, and consumers. Now, these improvements are the result of a determined effort across government and across society. They show what is possible when we work in unity and we work with unity of purpose. Now we have a unique window of opportunity to translate these gains into sustained growth. Despite this progress, we must be honest about the challenges that we still face. Although we are moving forward, we must not claim any easy victories. We are still far from where we need to be. For too many people, life remains hard. Jobs are scarce and opportunity is out of reach. South Africans are worried about violent crime and corruption. They are concerned at the state of local government and its inability to deliver basic services in many parts of the country. Above all, they are desperate for work and for an income to support their families. We can only be strong when we are equal, when the progress we have made is shared by all South Africans. The Constitution calls on us to work towards a society in which every South African has a fair chance to make a better life for themselves, in which every child receives a decent education and an opportunity to work and to thrive, a society in which we reclaim our public spaces and meet one another in the streets as equals, in which the state works for the people and the corrupt face consequences. This State of the Nation address outlines the actions that we have taken since last year and the steps we will take this year to advance the strategic priorities of the Government of National Unity. And these priorities, to remind ourselves, are firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. Secondly, to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living. And thirdly, to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. This evening, we outline the work we must do, work that we must do together to build stronger communities and a stronger nation. We outline the work we must do together to build a South Africa that is more prosperous, more inclusive, and more peaceful, more united, and ultimately more equal. A stronger South Africa must be safe and secure. The cost of crime is measured in lives that are lost and futures that are cut short. It is felt also in the sense of fear that permeates our society and in the reluctance of businesses to invest. Children here in the Western Cape are caught in the crossfire of gang wars. People are chased out of their homes by illegal miners in Kagiso, in Gauteng, Bapoba Mogale as well. Women are murdered by their partners in their homes. Building sites are shut down by criminals. This must and will change. Organized crime is now the most immediate threat to our democracy, our society, and our economic development. Our primary focus this year is on stepping up the fight against organized crime and criminal syndicates. And we will do so using technology, intelligence, and integrated law enforcement. We will tackle organized crime by consolidating intelligence at national level, identifying priority syndicates, and deploying hand-picked multidisciplinary intervention teams focused on dismantling criminal networks. To strengthen our fight against gang violence, I will be deploying the South African National Defence Force to support the police Now, thank you. As I said, I will be deploying the South African National Defence Force to support the police as we did to great effect with illegal mining. I have directed the Minister of Police and the SANDF to develop a technical plan on where our security forces should be deployed within the next few days in the Western Cape and in Gauteng to deal with gang violence and illegal mining. Now, as is required by the Constitution, I will inform the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces regarding the timing and place of the deployment of our soldiers and what it will cost. We have to act to rid our country of gang violence. At the same time, we are implementing an integrated strategy to address the root causes of crime through coordinated interventions across society, from street lighting to access to social services. We are going to tackle gun crime by streamlining legislation and regulations on licensing, possessing and trading in firearms and ammunition. We will increase enforcement of existing gun laws. We are putting more boots on the ground through the recruitment this year of 5,500 police officers, adding to the 20,000 new officers we announced previously in the State of the Nation address. We are also addressing the threat posed by the infiltration of illegal and counterfeit goods to South African jobs and industry. We are establishing a national illicit economy disruption program that brings together key state agencies and other stakeholders, including the private sector. Through the effective use of data analytics, AI, we will be targeting high-risk sectors like tobacco, fuel, alcohol, and other counterfeit products. The hearings of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the hearings that are going on in the ad hoc committee here have exposed rampant corruption in the SAPS and some metro police departments through the abuse of power. We cannot tolerate this. The rule of law depends on a police service that is ethical, responsive, and rooted in the communities that it serves. The South African Police Service has established a task team to ensure that investigations arising from the Madlanga Commission are undertaken swiftly without interference. The State Security Agency will revet the senior management of the South African Police Service and Metro Police Departments. The vetting process will include lifestyle audits as well. As we have successfully done with previous commissions, we will use the recommendations of the Madlanga Commission to make far-reaching changes. We are determined that the Commission's findings and recommendations will lay the basis for a fundamental reform of our criminal justice system. We are confident that these efforts will succeed because the great majority of police officers are dedicated to upholding the law and diligently serving the people of South Africa. Now, drawing on the success of Operation Vulindlela in advancing economic reform, we will use a similar approach to establish a hard-hitting new criminal justice reform initiative. This will crack down on organized crime, on illicit firearms and trade, using a dedicated team to ensure that reforms are implemented across the system. We are further intensifying the fight against corruption by strengthening bodies such as the Special Investigating Unit, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the Hawks. We will finalize government's approach to the recommendations of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council on the establishment of a permanent, independent, overarching anti-corruption body. We cannot accept that those who speak out against corruption are victimized, targeted, and killed. The Whistleblower Protection Bill will be introduced in Parliament. Among other things, this will criminalize retaliation and provide psychosocial, legal, and financial support to whistleblowers. And there will be a special focus on restructuring our procurement system with a view to ending corruption. The Auditor General reports that the majority of incidents of corruption originate in the procurement system. We cannot allow this cancer to continue, and we must therefore act. Measures will be taken. Measures that we will take will include the use of technology and the finalization of the new Public Procurement Act regulations by mid-2026. We cannot fight organized criminals by treading softly. We must act with zero tolerance and bring the full force of the law to bear. And I'd like this message to be clear. There will be no impunity for acts of criminality and corruption. In addition to crime, water is now the single most important issue for many people in our country, from large cities like Johannesburg to smaller towns like Knysna and rural areas like Guyana. We have all seen the pain that our people have been expressing through demonstrations in various parts of Gauteng. Now, these protests have been fueled by the frustrations that our people are feeling over inadequate, unreliable access to basic services such as water. I have directed the Minister of Water and Sanitation and her deputy, as well as the Minister of Cooperative Governance, to attend to the water shortage problem and engage with our communities. Now, I can see you are excited. As we speak...
Order, honourable members. Can we please lessen our voices so that members can hear the message? Thank you.
As we speak, they are in Gauteng at the moment, engaging with our people, explaining to them precisely how government intends to immediately deal with the challenges that our people are experiencing. They have informed me that the pipes that had been damaged are being repaired and the reservoirs are filling up again. Now, this comes from poor planning, inadequate maintenance of water systems by many of our municipalities, and the main cause of the problems are now the reason why we are now having empty taps. There is no silver bullet to address this challenge, which has its roots in systemic failures and many years of neglecting infrastructure. To ensure water security is in the long term, we are building new dams, upgrading existing infrastructure. We have committed 156 billion rand in public funding for water and sanitation infrastructure over the next 3 years. The construction of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project and other large-scale projects like the Ntabelanga Dam, part of the Umzimvubu Water Project, in the Eastern Cape is advancing, and we are in the final stages of establishing a national water resource infrastructure agency to effectively manage the country's water infrastructure and mobilize funding for infrastructure. However, the real challenge lies not in the availability of water, but in getting water to people's taps. The Water Services Amendment Act, or bill, will enable us to hold water service providers accountable for their performance, and if they don't perform, to be able to withdraw their licenses if they do not deliver. If a municipality is not willing or able to provide a service to its residents, then it must be done by another structure that can do so. Now, these reforms will address the root causes of the water crisis. In the short term, we need to address the immediate crisis where water outages are being experienced right now. 3 years ago, when we were experiencing daily power cuts, we established the National Energy Crisis Committee to enable a focused national response. We overcame what seemed like an insurmountable challenge by adopting a clear plan and delivering on it. Using the same approach, we will now elevate our response to water crisis to a National Water Crisis Committee, which I will chair. The structure will bring together all existing efforts into a single coordinating body. The Deputy President has been working with a number of water authorities in the country, and we will coordinate all that to make sure that we address this problem. It will deploy technical experts and resources from national government to municipalities facing water challenges. It will ensure that action is taken swiftly and effectively to address the problem. To address the challenges effectively, we will not hesitate to use the powers that are enshrined in our Constitution and in the Water Services Act to intervene in municipalities where necessary. National government cannot stand by and believe that local government will be able to solve the problem which they are not able to solve. National government will therefore intervene. We will hold to account those who neglect their responsibility to supply water to our people. Government has already laid criminal charges against 56 municipalities that have failed to meet their obligations. We will now move to even lay charges against municipal managers for violating the National Water Act. The critical problem is that in many metros, in many of our cities and towns, water revenue is being used for other purposes, and very little is invested in upgrading and maintaining water infrastructure. To address this challenge, in line with the commitment that we made last year, we have introduced a new 54 billion rand incentive for metros to reform their water and sanitation electricity services. This will ensure that the revenue from water usage is put straight back into fixing pipes, into fixing reservoirs, and into pumping stations. Water outages are a symptom of a local government system that is not working. A far-reaching overhaul is now underway to address the root causes of dysfunction in many of our municipalities. In many places, local government administrations are weak, don't have the capacity, and are also governed by patronage rather than by technical capacity and merit. In her most recent report on local government, the Auditor General said, local government is characterized by inefficient accountability, failing service delivery, poor financial management and governance, weak institutional capability and widespread instability. She says that arresting the decline of local government will require our collective action. We are now taking collective action. Learning from our experience of the past 30 years, we will in the coming months finalize a revised white paper on local government. This will provide solutions for the functioning of an effective local government system. The white paper will reimagine the way that our local government should work. The current system is too complex and fragmented, expecting even small and weak municipalities to take on many responsibilities. We will propose fundamental changes that recognize the reality that some municipalities can take on more functions than others, and that we need a differentiated approach to municipal powers and responsibilities. We're also proposing a more structured cooperation between municipalities and traditional and Khoisan leadership institutions to enable community engagement and shared problem solving.